And you know, and I know, I am a student of 1% improvement. That's it. How do I wake up every day? And how can I be? How can I be 1% better today?
Stefan, thanks for coming on the podcast, mate.
Thanks for having me here, Alex. I must say this is a very different place to be interviewed, but looking forward to this, Alex, I must say.
Yeah. I've been excited for this one. Usually the guests I've had on are all very physical, kind of health related. You know, we're talking about emotions, or we're talking about physically working out and those sort of things. And just through getting to know you really well over the past couple of years, I've just kind of learned how much of an important piece wealth is, and how that affects our health. Because when things aren't going right financially, the stress and everything that comes with that can be really, really taxing on the body. And so I thought it'd be great to get you on and just unpack that a little bit. And you've got so much to offer, and I'm just excited to have you here. So thanks for coming on. But to get things started, mate, what's the sweatiest you've ever been?
The sweatiest, my God, there's so much. The sweatiest I've ever been. Well, mate, sitting in this room, I've got to say there's a very close, I guess, association with sweat and this particular unit, this bad boy, and you know, one of the best things I ever did since COVID was buy one of these, and I've never looked back. So obviously, getting in this room and really clearing my head, and it's not one of those water-based saunas, and this is what I love about it. It's so clean, and you can come in and really sit back and think, and you do sweat, and you sweat appropriately, and you know, the controls that you've said here have been amazing. But I guess you definitely sweat in this room, so it's very easy to say in this room I've sweated the most, particularly 2 weeks ago, which sort of you ask a very good question. As a young guy, I used to play competitive sport, and I remember hot summers on the Greek islands where, you know, I'd have to keep fit in the in-between season. So, you know, I'd go for a run in the morning, I'd go for a run in the afternoon, and if you're in the middle of if you're on the Greek islands in the middle of August, it's particularly where Mum and Dad are from, which is Rhodes, which I've spent a lot of time there in my adult years as a young adult. I used to go for runs, and I'd test myself in the middle of the day at about 11:30, 12:30, where the heat was just beaming, and it was crazy. Looking back on it, it was really crazy. But the amount of sweat, literally, before you even tied your shoelaces to go, you know, one step forward, you were already drenched. And I used to sort of find a lot of motivation in that. And like I say, 2 weeks ago, Alex, I was in this room, and we're preparing a whole new fourth year for Board of Directors 12, one of our programs at Business Benchmark Group. And I was in here just sort of reflecting on some of the videos and some of the exercises that Damien and I were engineering for that fourth year that commences next year for many of our clients. And I sat in here for about 72 minutes, which is, I reckon, 12 minutes too long. And I was at about 48 degrees. And I've got to say, at about the 60-minute mark, I'm looking at myself and feeling, oh my God, I'm back in my peak, running the 6 and 10K runs in the middle of August on the Greek Islands. So the sweatiest I've ever been was the Greek Islands, and 2 weeks ago, setting up the fourth year program for Board of Directors 12. So there you go.
Love that. I imagine there's a lot of emotional sweat that comes with doing what you do in business as well. But yeah, that kind of sums you up in a way, because there's something about the mindset to go out in the middle of a hot summer, in the middle of the day, and go for a run. You know, most runners are like, we'll get it done in the morning, or we'll get it done in the evening. There's something about doing it when the sun's in the middle of the sky that's kind of next level. I love that. So you were running a lot when you were younger, and you were obviously close with your parents. When did you start to get into business, and how did that sort of start to shape your life from early on? I know that you took over your parents' business. What was that kind of like, and how old were you, and what were you doing around that time?
So I grew up in a family business, very, very, very similar to your journey, where, mum and dad are working and they're doing their best and they're doing it their way, which, I guess as a young guy, I really didn't know whether it was the right way, but I did know mum and dad worked hard, and they were certainly committed to a business that almost sucked them, really sucked them into, long days and long weeks, and one year turned into the next. And they were successful as it related to their business. So I grew up in that family business environment. We know the kitchen table. There was no work and then life. It was like everything was about, you talk about school, and then all of a sudden it'll be about work, mum and dad discussing what needed to happen tomorrow, what happened today, and what are we doing about next week. Right. So I really got baptized into that, I guess, business, commercial, people, team, problems very early. And then went to university in the late 80s, graduated in early 91 or 90, and I then went overseas with my friends from university for a 3-month holiday, and ended up staying there for several summers, and there was a bit of commuting back at home, and then I came back in about I was back home and came back to my sister's engagement, and realised that, in the matter of about 2.5, 3 years, what happened to mum and dad's business. They'd gone from 120 people employed, Alex, to down to 4, and almost lost the family home. So it was never my plan. It was never my intention. But at the age of about 24, I think I got the ages right there. I got involved in mum and dad's business. It was textile manufacturing, so clothing manufacturing. We were the major suppliers to Nike.
Right.
When that project finished 10 years later, but I took it over, and I took it over in very bad shape. We owed a lot of money. Mum and dad did business with people that ultimately didn't respect. They needed to pay their bills. Right.
Mm.
They did business in a way that was all about them. They never grew teams. So I got involved in a business that was very, very broken, dysfunctional, and the money had gone.
Mm.
And all we had was just a huge dose of courage and naivety on my behalf to take on mum and dad's business and help it sort of pivot back into shape. And the most important thing for me, just to be really clear with you, Alex, is I was just focused on getting mum and dad to a place where they had choice again.
Mm.
They had gone from financially retired in the late 80s to very much broke by the early 90s, and I wasn't prepared for that to be their label.
Mm.
And I got involved, and I hated going to that business. Literally for 10 years I ran that business, and we grew it back up to 70 people. It was a multi-million-dollar business. As I mentioned before, we were the major supplier. We were a benchmark business in textile manufacturing. So I got involved at a very young age. I engaged mentors and paid mentors and people that were truly going to, give me perspective, but also challenge the status quo, ensure that regardless of what I liked and didn't like, I was doing the work of a leader and a CEO.
Mm.
And, 10 years on, we sold that business. We had 70 people when we sold that business, and we sold it internally to internal team, and they are running it now in a different country because Australia's run out of textile manufacturing machinists, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So in early 2000s, I moved on to other industries, and in 2005, I started the business coaching business, which just very quickly was all about helping business owners know that they can go home at the end of a good day and spend time with their family. They didn't need to work 15 and 20-hour days every day.
Mm.
So that was my birth.
Yeah, beautiful. And was it during that 10 years of running that business that you kind of found your passion for business in general?
No, I always, if anything, during that 10 years, I was so convinced because of an attitude that it was just easy to blame mum and dad for me not being in a place that I didn't choose. But so it was very easy for me on an exterior level to blame It's getting hot in here, mate. It was very easy for mum and dad to be the reason why I was doing something I didn't choose. You know what I mean?
Right.
But beneath the layer of that, I studied commerce, everything about me growing up, and interestingly enough, I was having a chat with my 17-year-old that just reminded me so much of how I used to think as a very young guy and a very young person, I guess, just being curious about, how the tool called business works. And so, no, I certainly, I've got to say, my mother's side of the family is very, it goes back almost, 6, 7, 8 generations of commerce, supply and demand and buy and sell. And so it's in the genes. And mum was and still is an amazing human being with a lot of, just the way she thinks and the way she has an extreme dose of resilience. So during that 10 years, I certainly I convinced myself that I was hating what I was doing, but in fairness, my mentors and those that I needed to be a little more elegant in my behaviour, let's call it, were always, patting me on the back for the work I was doing and continue to do it because I was punching way above my weight. The way I was thinking was way beyond my years. And it was only when we sold that business, and mum and dad truly had freedom after that I realised, and you've heard me say this in our catch-ups, if I knew back then what I know now, I would never have sold that business. It was a benchmark business. You don't sell benchmark businesses.
Right.
You've done all the hard work. All the heavy lifting's done.
Right, especially not when the cash is coming in, right, and staying in.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's predictable for profit. You got people who are doing some amazing work on the team, and, you're working as a unit. You're working as a true functioning business, where you don't have to do everything and do all the heavy lifting, and all problems that may occur have been discussed, 6 months, 12 months before they even happen. So you're never stressed. I mean, through the COVID-19 period how the whole community, our community of business benchmark group navigated through that, and most of them, 97% of them, are better than every industry that is, even the hospitality industries, than what they were before. So the thing about business, I mean, the outcome is money, the scoreboard is numbers, but it's about people.
Right.
And you got to call it tight. It's not about people and being friends. It's about being a leader is about being honest. It's about being vulnerable too, It's about being very, very okay about speaking your truth. It might not be right, but to build a culture and build a business and build a team that has no judgment. And that's an ongoing, that's a constant. Leadership is not for the faint-hearted, and business is not for the faint-hearted. And that's why only 13% of the adult population, Alex, in the world, that's 1 in 10, really. 1 in 10 adults in the world run and or lead a business. Everyone else works on someone's team. Nothing wrong with the ratios. It just demonstrates if it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying there. It's all about being hard on the issue and not being hard on the people. And I think that kind of translates into life too. You're not being hard on the issue. It's just the thing that's going on in the relationship, or in the relationship. If there's something happening, it's like, okay, let's address that. Let's not point fingers. Whenever we're pointing fingers at someone, there's always 3 fingers pointing back at ourselves. And it's just being open and honest and having that communication. There's been some big lessons I've learned in my entrepreneurial journey over the last 3 years. That's for sure. And
it's also if I can interject there for a moment. It's also when I reflect back on those first 10 years. When I reflect back on those first 10 years in business, officially in business, in the family business, and I guess my unnecessary behaviour, like the behaviour of you know what, I'm just going to behave like I'm angry because I don't want to be here with mum and dad and make it hard for them, and in fairness, it was not their fault. I look back at that tonight, and if I have a regret about that first 10 years, because it's the only regret I have, it's I chose to be below the line in front of them.
Mm.
As the wins and the successes were coming, and the first 4 years were very difficult. As the successes and the wins were coming, I didn't allow us to celebrate. I didn't allow us to we reduced $1 million debt down to $500,000. Why not celebrate?
Right.
So that is one regret, and I've worked really hard on myself and my personal development as it relates to that. And in fairness, if I can be really honest, and I don't talk about this much, it's probably about 4 or 5 years ago that we buried the hatchet as a family unit on that period. Like the scars of that period were really, really long lasting. And regardless of the success and the success that came and literally, 250 weeks, we were into success, on the road to success. From the moment we took it on, rebuilt it, 4 years on, we were starting to be really, in control. And then the next 200 to 300 weeks was about, just real optimization and leverage and synergy. So, but we never allowed ourselves to celebrate. And even it was about 4 or 5 years ago. It was Dad's 70th 4 or 5 years ago, and I had a quiet chat with him, and he had a quiet chat with me. And my dad's very quiet. He's a very opposite. Mum's more my I guess my personal traits are very much like Mum's. Dad's a steady, compliant profile, and he's just a really good thinker and not many words, but when he speaks, you listen. And I guess just reflecting on that, and there's so much to learn in our DNA. There's so much to learn and accept, non-judgmental as to where are the components of our DNA, and how does that play out in our day-to-day life? How does that play out as we become influencers, whether it's team and or family? And it's through that period that I created my hierarchy of values. It's through that period that I created my affirmations that to this day, there's not a day that I don't wake up and or before I go to sleep to share my affirmations. And it's verbalized, it's in the mirror, and it's about feeding my literal brain of the vitamins it deserves to ensure I have a choice as to how I wake up. And the choice is always in the affirmative, so affirmations.
Sounds like you really chiseled yourself into kind of I guess it was like a conditioning process through those 10 years in your parents' business to you kind of got spat out the other end with all of these learnings and understandings of business that you perhaps wouldn't have had you not gone through that, through that massive adversity. I want to get into hierarchy of values as well, but before we get there, what are the sort of things in your parents' sense? Like how was, they had the business in the late 80s that was pumping, and then by the early 90s it was not. What were the sort of things that they were feeling around that time? And I guess opening that up to the greater community of businesses that you've worked with, what's going through like a business owner's mind, or even I imagine a lot of people's mind through COVID-19 as financially things start to go in a downward spiral? What sort of things are they feeling and experiencing in their day-to-day life? Obviously they're going to be stressed out, but I imagine there's a myriad of things going on.
I think there's a my early day memories, because again I was very much involved. Mum and Dad started our business in 1978 from our garage at home in East Doncaster. We then moved into Mum and Dad moved into their first factory in 1981 in Thomastown. Then we moved into the next factory in 1984, and by would have been late 80s, we were working out of a 15,000 square foot factory in Thomastown. When the fan hit, or the stuff on the fan hit, we literally packed everything up and went back to where we started in in a 2,000 square foot factory. And
that would have been humbling.
And by the time we sold it, we were running it out of a 30,000 square foot, fully automated as far as textile manufacturing in Australia was concerned. Factory. So my early memories of what was going on versus what should have been going on was spontaneous orders. It was mum and dad and then literally 100 people in one straight line being, the next line in an org chart. There was no definition for roles, responsibilities. There was no stop-start. It was next order. It was like, if you think about a fish and chip shop, you're just sort of waiting for the next person to come in and order their chips and dim sums, and off they go.
Right.
Now, I don't know why I thought about that example, but I just did, right? But it was very much order taking. So when I reflect on what went wrong, it's got nothing to do with what mum and dad did, other than they did business with people that had a very low integrity as it related to paying the bills. And actually we're seeing a little bit right now in certain industries where people are just putting their hand up and saying, we're going to go broke. Right. And they take people down with them. So mum and dad lost collectively in the late in the early 90s, they lost collectively about $1.4 million worth of bad debt.
Right.
This is work that they did, delivered on time and on budget, and, margins were tight in textile manufacturing and didn't get paid. So when I took on that business, the importance of understanding who is your ideal customer that's going to allow you to make a margin so you can continue to be serving them in 2 years' time, in 5 years' time, was one of the first things that I learned from the great Basil Port. It was my first paid mentor on day one when I couldn't feed the family. I couldn't feed myself, but I was paying a mentor to make sure we didn't screw it up.
Yeah.
And the other thing he taught me, just while I'm on that, because this is the issue that mum and dad created. They didn't build structure. He also taught me, and it's those 10 years that definitely have shaped Business Benchmark Group and the Board of Directors 12 methodology, lead flow, workflow, cash flow, profit flow. Profit flow stays, dream flow occurs in your life and in your business. What he taught me was the 5 R's, as in the letter R in the alphabet. The right people, being clear about their right roles and right responsibilities, getting paid the right money will always deliver the right result. There it is on a bumper sticker. And he also taught me, which was really interesting as a 24-year-old to understand this, Stefan, 50% of something successful is better than 100% of not. Do it right the first time, because it takes just as long to do it right the first time as it does to do it right the second time. Slow it down, communicate, confirm everyone's on the same page, and move forward.
Yeah, I feel like I might need to get that tattooed, because I'm always on the get it done, get shit done kind of train, and sometimes doing things a little bit too quick. So what were the conversations like over the dinner table when $1.4 million worth of delivered product wasn't paid for?
Oh, it was scary. It was scary. Mum and dad, migrants of the 60s, came here with a suitcase, their dreams. They got married here. They were school children, friends, and they mum followed dad here. They got married here. I was born in 1969. So to have perceivably everything, and on the back of just a couple of bad deals, but a couple of bad, again, just bad deals, which we do own now. We don't blame anyone. We just own it. The conversations as they watch their property portfolio one after the other go down, the conversations as interest rates were now at 17% and we were maxed out in what would have been a $250,000 overdraft, the conversations of people that we had to plead with, please just trust us, we will pay you back. We are resisting to liquidate. We're not going to do that to you. And literally, I think the the hardest and probably the most suppressed memory for me from that period is the conversation around, do we sell the family home?
Mm.
And very close to that one was, when I passed HSC, which was year 12 back then, and got into university, Mum was so proud of me. They bought me a brand new BMW as a gift. Let's call it, And by the age of 23, literally 5 years later, we had to sell that to put food on the table.
Mm.
So I have blocked a lot of the drama around that. I've certainly suppressed it, and again, we've buried the hatchet to a certain degree 4 or so years ago. But when you've worked so hard and literally you've sweated, literally not purposely sweated, you just sweated for it,
right?
And you lose it all, and you're losing it all in a real sort of domino, bang, 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 you can't control sort of way. That's a pretty scary place.
Mm. Mm.
When you're not educated in business.
Right. Yeah, I imagine it just would have been like feeling it's out of your control, like you can't kind of grasp it almost,
Well, when your dream was so close and you felt it was in your palm, gets taken away from you and literally thrown so far you will never get it ever again. When you're in your late 40s and you were a migrant and you knew what hunger and starvation was like, that's a very interesting book to read, that one.
Yeah. And so coming out of that then, as you started to shift things in the right direction, you said you perhaps didn't celebrate enough, which I think every human being's guilty of. There's plenty of things to celebrate, like, waking up and being able to eat breakfast every morning. As you kind of came out of that, I imagine some confidence came along with that as well, right? Which kind of led you to where you are now. And I'm hoping at some stage you did have a really big bloody celebration, mate, because from that low point to where you sold the business is a massive turnaround.
Look, the greatest celebration happens. The greatest celebration, Alex, if and again, I don't talk too much about this, but the greatest celebration, Terry and I, my wife and I, we got married in I better get this right, 1997. It's either the 7th of March.
We can edit that one out, mate. We'll just...
But it's either the 7th of March, this is why it's tricky. So when was the first Grand Prix Victoria? Here you go, in Melbourne.
Oh, I definitely don't know that.
Well, whenever that was the weekend, man. Okay. So it's either the 7th of March 97 or the 8th of March 98. And hopefully she can't hear me because she'd be pretty peed off, because I always get that one. It's like a fraudulent slip in spelling, theirs and theirs. No, right. It's E-I, not E-R-E. But one of the greatest things, Alex, and you rebuild and the fulfillment of rebuilding, the fulfillment of being a builder, the fulfillment of growing people, the fulfillment in your 20s to have turned something around and being, part of a team. Not you. I didn't do it on my own. I mean, we had 70 people. We had full structure. It was just amazing. I'd be sitting on tables at Nike, at Adidas, Puma, and we used to make all the AFL and NRL merchandise to a certain degree, all the Australian Open uniforms for about 5 years in the late 90s and early 2000s. Kathy Freeman's running suit prototype for the 2000 Olympics was prototyped in our factory in a very confidential sort of way. It did get manufactured overseas because the fabric was confidential at the time. So to have Kathy in our space, Carl Lewis, one of the best Olympians ever, Serena Williams, and the list goes on. All these people used to walk through our facility. We were the first code of conduct factory created in Australia as it related to textile manufacturing. So there were some real proud moments, but the biggest and the greatest part to me that till now, even until the other night when I had a real sort of off the cuff conversation with Stephen, my oldest boy, and Harris even last night with his schooling results recently. He's a year 10 student. My son's my oldest boy's in BCE, and tough year for him. He so my greatest celebration is the fact that Terry and I are self-made, and we work really hard, and we've got an intense level of integrity, and it's our children. I mean, to watch our children grow and continue to grow. And to me, it's about them being great citizens in the world, being okay to also be builders. It's not going to be delivered on a silver platter. They're going to have to use their smarts, and it's going to be okay to fail. I'm here to support failure for them so that they have an opportunity to determine what does failure look like and how do I bounce back. So the biggest celebration, because money, as you know, comes and it flows. And there's a tipping point for money, Alex. Money and the result of success as it relates to your career or your business or your job or whatever it is that you're playing with. This is why I get bemused when I hear people doing side hustles. Right? I get bemused when people think getting distracted is a great idea. Being delusional is an unbelievable, let's sponsor delusion. Let's do side hustles. I can't do one thing right. Let me try doing 10 things really bad. Side hustles. Far out. Don't get me started. But I shouldn't be so opinionated about that, but I do know what distraction and delusion leads to. So
right.
I should be opinionated by that. But celebration for me is the continuum. Celebration for me is making sure that, my health is above all. You talk about hierarchy of values, that's number one. And this little shrine here, this little place here, this is my place, and the kids and Terry and I, it's a 2-seater. It's just enough to just give me mindfulness. It's just enough if Terry's in here and she's okay for me to step into it. Fits us. It's beautiful. We have a really good conversation in here every so often. For me, celebration is I want to live to 100. I want to dance at my granddaughter's 21st. That's celebration for me, and that takes a lot of there's a lot of things that have got to go right for that I can't control. But the things that I can control, I am rigid. I am structured. It was never my default. Structure and rigid was not my thing. The thing for me is, okay, you reckon I can't do that? Let me show you I can. The thing for me is having a finish line very clearly articulated, and let me work on a plan. Let me connect a few dots, and let me show you. Interestingly enough, and I brought it with me because I'm so proud of this little baby. So this little thing I achieved this morning. So this is it's a fitness program I'm involved in, and it's called Heavy Haulers at PHIIT Studio here in Doncaster. Craig Abbott, shout out to you, massive influencer and a great personal trainer, and his whole team and him do an amazing thing. Anyway, this morning, 4 years to the day, I've reached my 500,000 milestone. I was told if you do it in 5 years at your level, training 3 days a week, being in your late 40s, that would be a remarkable result. Well, 4 years to the day. So in my interview when I got this morning, I said, bring on 1 million, and I'll do that one in 3.5 years. And it's not about beating the traffic. It's not about it's a function of being outcome based in your thinking. It's a function of I don't need to get there in a hurry. I just need to be consistent in how I get there. Mm. And and I know, I am a student of 1% improvement. That's it. Mm. How do I wake up every day? And how can I be 1% better today? If you wake up every day and you ask that question of yourself and you're congruent, you are integrity-based in how you look into that mirror and you say, how can I be 1% better today? Today, I am going to be 1% better. And if you're looking into the mirror asking those two questions, you have just set yourself up for a ripper day.
I love that. All about the morning, ways to start the day, those kind of powerful questions. And I like to start the day with pretty much all of this year, it's been getting up, 30-minute meditation. And that's not just mindfulness. That's, a few minutes of mindfulness and then a few minutes of, what do I want to bring into the day? I do want to bring in some abundance, and I do want to bring in that love for others and myself, and forgiveness when it's needed, and gratitude about everything that we have. And I always used to think it was like a girly thing to do, but I've been writing, 5 things I'm grateful for each day, 5 different things each day. And man, after a month, you're like, holy shit, there's just so much to be grateful for, and just doing that, I never used to meditate in the morning. Just doing that the last 6 months is just, every day is just better because of that. Right. And then you supercharge that with, how can I be 1% better today? And maybe you'll have a conversation that you've been avoiding, which you find challenging to do, or, maybe you just go for that run, which you haven't been doing. Maybe you have a sauna that you've been wanting to enjoy. And, that.
But I'm just going to change this to blue light for a moment. Are you okay with that?
Go for it, man. Yeah.
Just I want to get ready for the day now.
Yeah, I was about to say it's daytime. It's time to start waking up. And when you have that time for yourself in the morning, then it allows you to go about the day from the right angle and from the right trajectory. And I'm really big on those things. So, okay. So you mentioned your hierarchy of values, and I want to touch on that for a moment. So I'm very happy to hear that health is number one, because for a lot of people, a lot of people it isn't, or maybe it's number 2 or 3 or 4. They're just worried about getting by. And I think through COVID-19, we saw a shift in that. We certainly did as a business, when all of a sudden everyone's thinking, oh, I should try and be healthy now. And, maybe I should do something for myself. And that was actually a really beautiful thing out of COVID-19. So health's number one, then what's number 2, 3, 4, 5 for you? What are the things that kind of help guide you about the actions?
Just on health. I mean, the reason number one, the reason for me, health is number one, and hierarchy of values is a story. It's a journey, and I think health is such a big space. It's not. There's so much to health. You talk about your morning ritual. Well, that's health.
Right.
I'm a 5:15 start sort of person.
Mm.
I don't judge, but I think if you're gonna invest in yourself and then invest in in being the best you for the day, you might as well give yourself an awakening very early to be ready for the day. So health for me is number one, and number 2 is family. And it's an interesting combo. Why is family 2? I mean, why wouldn't you have them as number 1, or relationships as number 2? Well, if I'm not healthy, I'm not around to keep my family secure, to keep them provided, to keep them nourished in positive affirmation and congruent assertiveness, in being, I don't want to go traditional in my reference to family, but just being an influencer in the home and the immediate circle, and thereafter my key friends, for which I can count them on one hand.
Mm.
And that's a great thing, because I don't need 50 hands to count who are my friends. I've got plenty of friends, but as it relates to family and the concept of family, I have a very limited amount of, I have in an emergency, here are the 5 numbers you would call outside of my immediate family list.
Yeah.
And every one of those persons know me and I know them. It's like we were sisters and or brothers.
Mm.
And there's no judgment. So really, really interesting. So family is number 2, Alex. Number 3 is by a long shot, and to many, what I'm just about to share gets wrapped up in the explanation. So I call number 3 money, and money is a direct relation to your integrity, And money is a direct relation to your congruency, and money is a direct relation to your ability to be a student of the tool called money. And there is a tipping point where money and what money can do for you is past. And therefore money is just something that's there that you need to respect. It's a tool. People say, oh, it's the love of money that's the evil. Well, it is. The love of money is the evil. But money and what it can do as it relates to, choices and quality of life and ultimately, unnecessary anxiety and stress, which impacts in a big way health. We lost a very good friend of ours about a week ago, and he was a hero. He was a significant businessman in Australia, and he was the owner of Hair House Warehouse. And Joe Latu, rest in peace, my friend. He got buried on Saturday morning, and a year ago to the day, he was diagnosed with a brain tumour. And he used to train every day. He was healthy every day, but he just had a knack for being stressed. And it wasn't because he didn't have money. He just had a knack for being stressed. So, when you think about health, family, relationships, close friendships, and then business, there's a hierarchy there that puts it in the right place for me. But it also, it's an easy thing to lose sight of if you get too absorbed in it. It's an easy thing to want more of because it has a power that has ruined many. And, there's a component of money that you get what you deserve.
Yeah, and I think you also get what you believe. Our beliefs around money are so strong and so ingrained. It's
and just on that, how you do anything is how you do everything. Show me who your best 5 friends are, and I'll tell you exactly where you're going. You are the sum of, and all that. And I don't need to hang around rich friends.
Right.
I just need to be around the right people who allow me to be me. Right. And don't judge me, or I don't need to pretend. And you know me well enough to know I don't have anyway, you've known me for a long time. So money is number 3, which is a place of business and a place of prosperity and a place of, in fairness, your business and your career and your life will have a legacy. Money as a category, which is business and career, will be a big part of legacy. Number 4 is philanthropy. The ability to do philanthropy well. I mean, it's just one of the most powerful things to do, in my opinion. I've seen it done really well, and I've seen it done at a very humble level because 5% of something is 5% of something. Now, when you're at a stage, and this is again some of the great teachings of my early mentors, Stefan. 5% of $1 is 5 cents. Get used to being philanthropic with 5 cents. Okay, well, that's not much, Basil. That's okay, but it's 5 cents. It's 5%. And when you think about 5% of $1,000, 5% of $10,000, and ultimately that just think that through. And the other thing, if you can buy a kid, a child, a gift of a bike, imagine the day when you can buy the whole village a container of bikes, and it's all. And so philanthropy for me is a big one. I've been heavily involved with the Red Cross for about 27 years now, and there's a lot of things that again I participate in and or are very pro bono about. That it's philanthropy. I think it's also the third. It's also the third stage of goal setting. So the first stage of goal setting, if I can just be really quick here, the first stage of goal setting for me is I needed to work away negative goal setting. I need to get out of this textile manufacturing business, get mum and dad back to a place where they got choice. I'm out of here. Negative goal setting. It was a negative thing I needed to get away from. I need to quit smoking. I need to stop eating bad food. Negative goal setting. Yeah. I need to lose weight. Negative goal setting. Once you've done that, now it's about positive goal setting. and you move into a different phase. Typically with age, you move into the moving towards phase of goal setting, right? Because now you have the belief, you have some structure, you have outcome-based thinking, and then what does it look like? Work back. What do I need to do? What does it need to look like at certain milestones? Bang, you're on a journey with correction all the way through. And then the third phase is the giving back phase, which is what I just described, philanthropy at the next level, which is, I think philanthropy at the next level doesn't need to have your name on the hospital ward. I think it's great if you can, but it doesn't need to. It doesn't need your name on the school building. It'd be great if you can. It doesn't need to be that. Don't be, in my opinion, well, I'm not motivated by that, right? So that I'm talking about me. And the fifth, and one of the most amazing, like, you mentioned it before for your ritual in the morning, gratefulness, gratitude.
Yeah.
I literally have a KPI on this and have for about 17 years, and I score it every day, and I don't hit it every day, but my God, I score it. It's alive. 5 thank yous as a minimum every day. I thank you for. Like this morning on my Facebook post, there's already 2 thank yous to Craig and the team at Fit Studio for that milestone reach. So they're my five hierarchy of values, mate. Health, family, business, money, philanthropy, and gratitude.
Love that. And did you do a lot of work to define those, did you say, okay, I'm going to sit down and work these out? Or was it something that was just a product of your life and you kind of just realized that when you drive your day and your week based around those, that you're feeling more fulfilled?
Look, stages. I mean, health would not have been my first. Health would not have been because it was just a natural reflex for me as a young, very prominent soccer player and, school captain and blah, blah, blah. So health for me was not an issue. Knock on wood. There's a bit of wood in here.
There it is.
Knock on wood. I don't know my doctor's name. I don't have a doctor. I don't have a GP. I have no idea. I just knock on wood, right? Because, I don't want to over talk about that. Right. But so health was not something it was part of life from my teens and my 20s and even my early 30s. And, as I get into my 40s and 50s, I'm on. But when the kids came along and the responsibility of being the custodian of a journey called children and being here to keep them secure and or on track, or being the confidant and making sure that health all of a sudden went into a different place, right? And then you think about managing 150 to 200 businesses every month and a team that is growing and our reach is going global, and my God, I have so much life and I don't want to take it for granted because I don't know my doctor's name.
Right. Yeah.
That's called ignorance, right? So health is a big play as it relates to all that, and it certainly has shifted. Money and business would have been something a lot more focused for me in my earlier years because I was rebuilding a big piece, and then Terry and I needed to build our piece, and that's why it's number 3. And I'm just. Again, I do come from a southern Mediterranean sort of background, and family is very, it's just sacrosanct. And so number 2 for me sits there as it relates to, I guess, my upbringing too. And so there was a little bit of that. Philanthropy, I didn't really, I got taught philanthropy very young, and I sort of thought that was important. And I knew giving time back to the charities and the people and the organisations I support was a feel good. And so good from a spiritual perspective, the spiritual fulfillment that I wanted more of that, and I want more of that. It's such a destiny for me.
Yeah. I love that. I find whenever you give, you always receive back. The key there is to not give just so you receive. Otherwise, it doesn't quite work.
Yeah, the law of reciprocity, Alex,
right.
plays in a very peculiar way.
Yeah.
And once again, you get what you deserve.
Yeah. 100%. But yeah, there's something, I was saying to one of my team the other day, I said, I just want to be able to, I just want to be able to have everyone on my team feel how appreciative of the great work that they do I am. You know, we've worked so hard in improving our team and our culture, and it's such a place where people want to come to work now, and we're all having some fun, you know. And I can't tell the team how much I appreciate them enough, you know, and I'm just always trying to give back and give more to them because their work is incredible, and I'm so grateful for that. And whenever I do that, you just feel good, you know, or just giving in any way, shape or form, you know. Maybe it's a piece of fruit to a homeless person or something. It just feels nice.
And I think there's some magic. There's certainly a subconscious magic, and this is for everyone, not just you.
Mm.
There's a subconscious magic in being the leader of something going somewhere that doesn't need the constant verbalization of that.
Right.
You know, when you can become a place of ripple, a place of, you know, the law of procession, the law of, you know, the bumblebee has some nectar, it goes to the next flower, and on its journey, the bee leaves pollen everywhere, which is what the universe needs, right? So just in what you said there, it dawns on me because I feel, you know, it's an out-of-body experience. I just want to say thank you so loud and continuously do it to the point where, well, in fairness, you are leading something that's going somewhere. You have provided a lot of people, and you will continue to, job security, the security of having a safe home, the security of being guaranteed to have your paycheck that allows you to do what you need to do every week, every month. So there is a subconscious appreciation that sometimes doesn't always need to be verbalized because of the work you do as the leader at iHealth Saunas, because of the leader that you are becoming and are constantly at 1% improvement every other day as it relates to the magnificent things you do well and the things that you realize you need to keep on improving.
Right. Yeah,
and that's the journey.
I think there's a lesson in that for all small business owners, in that we always feel like we need to like go the next level and have everyone, you know, perfectly happy and content all the time. And we forget that we are already providing as is. Some wise words there. So, mate, we're getting close. If you could offer some advice for those out there, whether they're running a business or just working for someone else, and they're stressed about money given what's going on in the world at the moment, any words of advice on things to focus on for them, or, you know, some little things they can start to do which will help, you know, change their mindset around money or wealth or just life in general?
Yeah, so I'll start with team members first, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So if you're a team member currently and you belong to a team, and you may have some some insecurities as to where to from here. I mean, Victoria and specifically in Australia is having a few issues at the moment, and we're okay. We'll be fine.
Mm.
So my feedback to team members is reach out to your I'll just call it owners or bosses, whatever you want to call it, guys. I mean, employers. Yeah. But reach out to your direct employers and ask, what else can I be doing? How else can I be helping?
Mm.
Is it okay if I start an hour earlier and finish an hour later? What else can I be doing to help the business? Strong advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're the type of person that asks those sort of questions and you belong to someone's team, you have no problem. If you're the sort of guy that should be starting at 8 o'clock or 8:30 or 9, and you think because working from home you can start at 9:30, and it's not about micromanagement, it's the attitude, right? So go to your team leaders, go to your bosses, go to your employers, go to your fellow team members and say, what else could I be doing because I am prepared to do? And please don't use the word try. Try is a weak word. You either do or you do not. So that's my advice to employees and team members. And my God, the world is so much better for A players on teams. A players want to win. The thing about business, you cannot do it on your own, and it's so much harder when you've got dysfunctionality and negativity. So, as a team member, put your hand up and be counted. It's not about hard work, it's about attitude. As a business owner, if as a 24-year-old with just a couple of degrees, I took on a very broken and very much in debt business in a crap industry in Australia when everyone else was closing textile manufacturing factories and going to Southeast Asia or China and making garments and pieces of garments there. And I was able to turn that around when I was literally in isolation. There was no one on my dance floor in that phase. There was no one saying, oh, stimulus this, stimulus that, 17% interest rates. If I, as a 23, 24-year-old, was able to turn that baby, that big bad boy around with my team, with my family, and turn it into a benchmark business against the trend, I don't understand what the problem is. I don't understand what, and I don't want to be delusional here. I don't understand where your focus is. And if it's not on your business and knocking on more doors, making more phone calls, reaching out and re-engaging, reactivating, realigning, building better relationships, asking for repeat and or referral business. Everything I've just mentioned is no money down, by the way. Everything I've just mentioned is a diary that has you as the leader being a little more proactive where you need to be versus watching Sky News or listening to 3AW for that matter. Right. So if you're an owner of a business, big or small, if you have people on your team, you have a family that's dependent on you to get up and about, choose what your activities are and make it happen. Make it happen. So whether you're in retail, whether you're in hospitality, whether you're in manufacturing and or distribution or trade and or construction or service, and every one of those industries are at our stable at Business Benchmark Group, 97% of them are trending towards record quarters. So as a business owner and a leader, it's up to you what you choose to put your energy into. I'm suggesting, as I just did, 7 to 8 strategies, no money down. It just depends on attitude. You can have the next best. Actually, interestingly enough, Alex, it's a brand new season next Wednesday.
Yes, it is.
We go back to zero, mate. It's a new financial year. Everything I've done in business since 1992-3 has got me ready for this next financial year. It's the game. Bring it. Bring it.
Mate, there's not a better way to end, I don't think. I need to share some gratitude with you. Thank you so much for coming on. We got into some deep stuff there and I really appreciate that. So thank you. It's been awesome. If people want to find out more about yourself, Business Benchmark Group, all the good stuff you guys are doing, where can they go? Where can they look you guys up? How can they find you?
Well, they can do it one of two ways. They can certainly it's businessbenchmarkgroup.com.au, and there's a reason we call it business benchmark, not business hopeful or wishful. Businessbenchmarkgroup.com.au. We have some really good tools right now. We have an amazing free resource library for everyone and anyone. Please go along. I mean, last night we did a cybersecurity deep dive with one of the best in the country, Patrick Hussain. So that's how they can meet us, or they can ping you, Alex, and you can introduce them to us directly. And I assure everyone, if you need a red carpet to me, you can walk on that, and your name would be on the list. So reach out to Alex, and I'm more than happy to reach out to you, and it's no obligation. I mean, the more of the more. Let's help. Let's help people stay gainfully employed. Let's help people make more abundance in this world. So gratitude to you, Alex, and well done on your journey, man. You are just a phenomenal poster of I own it, I do it, I learn it, I do it, I learn it. So well done. Just really happy.
Thank you, man.
Just really happy and grateful to have you as a leading light at your age level, which is just a label. I don't want to label you, but you are. Our eldest client at Business Benchmark Group is 84 years old, right? Our youngest client at Business Benchmark Group is Alex Tyson,
right?
And between the two of you, you're just remarkable human beings. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much for coming on, and I'll talk to you soon, no doubt.
Thank you. Cheers.